where did I stop with you guys?
In the parking lot, walking back with the cops.
Alright, so I'll finish that one out before I get into today's stuff. Alright, so I don't. What time does today's class end? So I don't mess this up again.
55.
55?
50.
See, that was a mistake I made before too. Alright.
Oh, I remember that the first day you were trying to do it.
Hilarious. Alright, so that how much time I have. Alright, I'm gonna do my best to wrap up the story from yesterday, and then we'll move on to the stuff for today. Today, more so than the other days, my brain jumps around a lot. So you'll just have to go with it. And I know I've said this to you guys before, and I know my 8th graders were in here for their 9th time today. You've heard it more than once. Don't make more out of this than what it is. It's an old person talking to you. That's what it is. It's an old person that you put a lot of weight on my words, but it's still just an old person who's talking to you. And as we go through it, and this old person talks to you, I know kids talk a lot about the emotions and feels and stuff like that, but it's different for every kid. And I have a lot of kids who come out of today, and they're like, I didn't feel anything. I didn't even feel sad. And that's okay. The words I have are going to be aimed at different people for different reasons. And there's every chance it might not hit you, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're dead inside or anything. I mean, you might be. But it's okay if that's how it comes away. And for others of you, it's going to hit you a lot harder. And it's just as I get into the conversations and the information I pass along, it'll have different weight for different people. And so it's just one of the things I wanted to make sure that you understood, that don't make more out of it than what it is. All right. To finish out from the to there. So I was arrested yet?
No, we're walking back with the cops.
So the cops, all right. So I'm going to try and do the speedy version of this one to wrap it up.
Oh, you have a picture of it this time.
I'm getting better each time. We're professionals. I know. And so I was walking back because the cops had shine the lights on me, and they'd shine the lights over on the 21-year-old and Fish. And luckily, the 21-year-old and Fish had heard the conversation, and being the quick thinkers that they were, they had thrown the blanket over all the alcohol in the back and then slammed the lid, and then just leaned against it all unsuspicious-like. Because that's what you do in the parking lot. You just lean against a car and stare with really big eyes at the cops because it doesn't make them think that you're guilty. And so we walked over to the two of them, and the cops shine their lights because in an RX-7, just like an SUV, you can see right into the back of it. And they shine the lights into the back of the car, and they're like, so what's underneath the blanket? Because you could tell it looked like a small mountain that was underneath there. To which I wittily replied, car stuff. Because it seemed I definitely was not going to tell them what it actually was. I was going to say a small mountain of beer cans. So car stuff seemed like the right answer. And they go, oh, car stuff. What kind of car stuff? To which I followed up with, I don't know, because I didn't have anything else. They go, can we look at the car stuff? And I'd seen cop shows, so I knew how to respond. And I go, no, because I knew them looking under the blanket was not going to go well for me. So I go, no. They go, we can't? And I go, no, because I wasn't sure if the cop shows had lied to me. But I was trying to stay strong. And they go, oh, well, here's what we're going to do. And I go, uh-huh. They go, we're going to stand behind your car so you can't drive anywhere. And we're going to call a tow truck. And the tow truck's going to come, and we're going to tow your car down to the police station. At the police station, we're going to have a locksmith come. And the locksmith's going to open the back of your car, and then we're going to lift up the blanket and see what's underneath there. And if your car stuff ends up to be just car stuff, then we'll apologize to you, and you can come get your car. But if the car stuff turns out to be anything illegal, then we're going to come back and arrest you in your dorm in front of all of your friends, and you're going to have to pay for the tow truck, and you're going to have to pay for the locksmith, and you're going to have to pay for the impounding of your car, and you're probably going to have to pay to get out. And they go, or the other option, I go, uh-huh. They go, you could just open it right now. And I was like, I don't like either option. Because once again, I was presented with the either get arrested now or get arrested later. And both of them ended with me getting arrested. And so I figured I'd go with the one that required me to get arrested and not be out a whole bunch of money. So I got out the key and I was like, okay. And I unlocked it and I stepped back. And I can still picture it to this day. The two cops went over and they lifted up the hatchback and they put back the blanket. At the same time, they both stood back and went, "Holy!" and then they cursed. Because there was so much beer in the back of my car. And I was like, that's not a good sound. That's not like a holy cow, you can go free. Because that's not how it goes. But for a moment, I was like, oh, they're so excited. But they were excited for other reasons. So they turned around to the three of us, and they go, whose car is this? And Fish and the 21-year-old quickly go, his, and pointed to me. And so for a moment, I'll be honest, I considered not claiming the car and just getting rid of it. And just be like, I don't know who it belongs to, and just dropping the keys, and like, you can keep it, and then walking away. But I figured my parents would frown on me throwing away a perfectly good car, and so I was like, so what do? Get arrested or throw away a car? And so I decided which beating would be less beatingful, and so I decided to go the arresting route. And I go, that's my car. And they go, your car? And I go, yes. So then they turn to the other two, Fish and the 21-year-old. They go, gentlemen, you're free to go. Not their car. They're not breaking the law. They didn't have to be there. That was their reaction. They go, really? The cop goes, unless you want to stay. And they go, nope. And they took off running. And they turned to me and they go, son, your car, your alcohol, you're in possession. You're under arrest. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? I was like, I don't even drink. And they go, we don't care. And so turned around, read my rights, got the handcuffs put on. Once again, really cold, really pinchy, and really unhappy. And I was like, are you kidding me? The irony of this is strong. So I then had to sit down. This is where my car was. And so I had to sit down. There's a curb that was right there. And I could look up and see my dorm floor. They're like a 11th or 12th floor. I don't remember which one. But I could look up there. And after a few minutes, the light started coming on my dorm floor. And it started filling with all these faces. They're like out there like just looking down at me. And it's because all the guys that were supposed to be going to the party that we were bringing the beer for, now there was no beer for the party. So instead, their party was watching me get arrested, which apparently is still a party. And so they were all in the windows staring down at me. And then, of course, as friends do, they all start waving at me like, hi! And I couldn't wave back because my hands were behind my back. So I'm like, I'm waving with one finger. And so they couldn't see that either. But sign language. And so it was rather depressing as I was sitting there. And eventually they called a cop car because there was more beer than the two guys could carry. And they had to put it into the back of the cop car. And they were joking and laughing the entire time. And I sat there wondering, hey, is this how I've ruined the rest of my life? Is that arrest when I was 14, is it still on my record? Is it going to go downhill from here? Am I going to get kicked out of school? What are my parents going to say? What are my professors going to say? All of that was going through my head. I remember getting into the cop car. In the cop car, I had to sit in the back seat this side, no front seats, like the last time I got arrested. And the back seat was not cloth like a normal cop car. It was a hard plastic, like the chairs you're sitting in. Like it was like a whole plastic bench seat. It was like a yellowy color. And I remember it was really weird. I sat in and I was like, that's not what I was expecting in the back of a cop car at all. And then I sat down, and so that you don't hurt your hands, it had a little divot, like a little bunny tail at the bottom of it, so you put your hands like a little pocket. Remember, like I sat down and put my hands like, ooh, and I could like move my hands like, ah, ha, ha. Like I moved my hands in a little pocket area. I remember talking to the police officers on the drive. I was like, why is the back of the car, like, the seat's all hard and plastic? I was like, is every car like that? They go, no. We tend to pick up a lot of drunk kids down here in Bloomington. They throw open the back seats. This makes it easier to clean. I was like, ah! And I'm like looking down. I'm like, because apparently the kids are like bleh, all over the place. And they just spray it out. And I'm like, it was genius, although it looks really gross right now. And they drove me down to the police station. I had to get my mug shot, and I got fingerprinted. And I don't know where the mug shot is. If I did, I would gladly put it up there for you. But I'm hoping it's burning somewhere down in Bloomington. And then because I was 18... after they processed me, they just let me go. They're like, see you in a couple of weeks when you have to come down for the court costs and whatever. And they just like booted me out. And I remember like standing on the front porch of the police station going, okay. And I had to walk like a half hour back home because apparently they don't give you a taxi ride back. And so I had to walk all the way across town to get back to my dorm, it was a depressing day. My friends were nice about it because they felt bad about me getting arrested and the fact that I wasn't going to be drinking in the first place. And the fallout from that is, one, I had to tell my parents because they don't tell your parents when you're 18. It's up to you to be responsible and have to go and tell them. And I waited a couple weeks because it was November, so I waited until Thanksgiving break because I didn't think that's something you should tell your parents over the phone. hey, how's Dad? I got arrested. See you later. And then hang up. So I was like, I'll wait, do it in person. And so I waited till I got home, and I told him, I tried to be as witty as possible. I was like, hey, remember when I was 14? I'm like, yeah. I was like, it was a rough year. Remember I got arrested? Like, yeah. I was like, yeah, it happened again. You know, what? And I'm like, you shoplifted again? I'm like, no, something new. Trying to mix it up. And so they're like, what is it this time? I was like, I arrested for possession. And they're like, what? I'm like, beer. And like, well, how much? I was like, a couple cans. Like, oh, how much? I'm like, 200. I'm like, 200. There's a lot we could fit in the car. And so parents don't have a lot of humor when it comes to that. They're really kind of grumpy. The problem is with my family history of alcoholism and drugs and abuse, my mom did not believe that I did not drink. And so when I told her that, her first thought was that I was drinking. And so she told me, hon, we're going to get you help. And I'm like, I don't need help. She's like, you need help because you obviously have a drinking issue. I was like, I don't have a drinking problem. I remember her saying, hon, you have to admit you have a problem. That's the first step. And I was like, I have lots of problems. That's just not one of them. And she would not believe me. Like, it was a throwdown fight. I'm like, I'm just an idiot. I was just trying to help friends. She's like, no one's that stupid. I'm like, I'm that stupid. And it didn't work until eventually we invited my friends over, who she'd known since I was in junior high, who were down in college with me. And since it was Thanksgiving break, they were also home. And we invited them over, and I remember she interrogated them, made me leave the room, and made them sit at the kitchen table. And like she was like yelling at them, and they convinced her, nope, he doesn't drink, he's just an idiot. She's like, he's really that dumb? Like, he's really that dumb? She's like, oh, thank God, my son's a moron. Oh, no, right side. And so that was the last time I got arrested. So I'm going on a 22-year streak, my longest so far. So I'm all excited about that one. And the fallout from it ended up not being bad. I had to pay some fines from it. Apparently a lot of kids get busted for alcohol at college. Who knew? But the drawback is when you're underage and you get busted for possession, the government automatically assumes that you have a drinking problem. Regardless, you can't convince them otherwise. So I had to go to alcohol rehab classes. And I remember how many times I told them, I don't drink. They're like, we don't care. I'm like, seriously, I don't care. Like, seriously, we don't care. And so every Saturday for 7 weeks, I had to go for 5 hours from 8 a.m. until 1 in the afternoon and have them tell me why I shouldn't drink. Which had an impact on me because there were some scary people there. Because it was in downtown Bloomington. There was not kids there. I was 18 years old, and there were people who had no teeth, and they smelled bad, and their clothes were all raw. And it was not a happy time. But it made me better, and so in the long run. So that's my last time that I got arrested, and so I use that to transition into the talk, whatever you want to call it, that I do today, because I'll reference it, it'll pop up and connect a little bit. I tell you that so that you will trust me, which I do understand the irony after doing Gospel and The Princess Bride and lying to you guys so much. Yeah. Excuse me. The idea of you trusting me is a whole other area. But realize I never lied to you guys to be mean. I won't say I never lied to you. I never lied to you to try and get out of trouble. When your parents ask you if you ate all your vegetables and you say yes, but really they're in your napkin, that's lying. All I did was educationally mislead you. Completely different. At least that's what I tell myself to sleep at night. And so there's a reason why I do everything in my classroom. And years ago, when 8th graders came back to talk to me and the high school kids came back to talk to me, it was from talking with them and them convincing me that part of what I should do at the end of the year is talk to you about why I do what I do. Because I realize you don't always fully understand the reasoning behind everything I do in my class, and which is fine with me. I don't do it to have you understand why I do it. I do it for the overall effect of it. Everything I've done in my room was to make you a better person, because I realized years ago that teaching English is the least important thing that I do. And I think that's the problem with a lot of teachers, is they get caught up in teaching the subject matter. And at the junior high level, that's not the most important thing. At the junior high level, making you a better person is the most important thing. Because this is the time of your life where you're figuring out who you are, where you're defining what your world is. And it's easy to get caught up in math and science and English and stuff like that when that's not the end all. Junior high academics are not super challenging. And so I learned years ago that English wasn't the main thing I was teaching. It was to make you a better person, and there's different ways to do that. Because one of the biggest issues for you guys at this time is laziness, and not just like not cleaning your room laziness, but just choices in life laziness. And so a lot of what my room is built around is making you make those good choices so that you're not lazy. And laziness is taking the easy route in life, doing what you know is not necessarily the right thing, but it's the easy thing to do. And it's not you guys. It's not yelling at you guys because you're some horrible, lazy class. It's humans. It's the human race does it. It's human nature to take the easy route. It's human nature to be lazy because it's the least painful. It's the least amount of resistance. It takes a force of will to step above and beyond that. So for some of you, I have become your external force of will to help you make those good choices. When I make you stand in class and say that you don't get to sit if you don't do the homework, that's to help you make those right choices. When I put you in my slow kid area, which for this class never really happens, doesn't really fully apply very often. It did on occasion, but not a whole lot. It was my way of saying I care about you, and I want you to make the right choices. And so everything I did was to help make you a better person. Because I realized years ago that people believe what you tell them. Which is why in my classroom, even though I give you a hard time and call you slow kids, I never call you dumb. I never call you stupid. I never call you a bad kid. I'll joke with you and I'll tease you at times, but that's different. Because I think you guys know me well enough to know when I'm teasing you. And that the fact it's not me actually trying to call your character into question. But one of the problems with human nature, which can also be a good thing, is that if you're told something enough times, you'll believe it. Regardless of whatever it is, if someone keeps telling you the same thing, you believe whatever that thing is. And it works for both the positive and the negative. The problem is, humans use it to the negative too often. Where we tell someone that you're trash, or we tell someone that you're not a good person, or we tell you that you're dumb, or we tell you that you're a loser. And if enough people tell you that, you eventually begin to believe it, even if it's not true. And I learned that as a teacher. If I keep telling a kid, you're dumb, even the smartest kid will begin to have doubts. And even the smartest kid will begin to wonder, maybe they are dumb. And I think that's what happens too often with teachers and with kids. Too many teachers tell kids the wrong thing. And too many parents do the same thing, where they'll tell you that you're not a good person, or that you're a bad kid, or that you're dumb, or that you don't deserve to be there. And even though it's not true, you hear it enough times, you begin to think that there must be some truth to it. So when I teach my class, I never do that. I'll call you a slow kid, but that's only because of your choices. And it stops as soon as you stop making those choices. But I never once called you dumb. I never once insulted your character or who you were. I did just the opposite. And it's one of those things that's subtle, and I don't know if you guys always picked up on it. But I always told you, whenever you made those choices, that I expected better. When I hit you on the head with my clipboard, it was because I knew you could do better. When I made you stand, it's because I knew you could do better. And every time that you did better, I told you that. Nicely done. That's what I knew you could do. And that was on purpose. Because if I keep telling you that I expect better, if I keep telling you that you can do better, eventually it begins to sink in. Even when you have other people telling you otherwise, it'll begin to sink in. And so I try to use my power for good. And it's why I never tell kids that they're stupid, or kids that they're fat, or that they're skinny. It's always a matter of trying to push you in that same direction. What I want you also to do is for you to realize that I'm not the only one that has that power. You have that same power with each other. When you interact with other kids, is there a person that you interact with? A brother, a sister, a parent, a friend, a kid in class that you always say that same thing to? That you're always saying, you're a bad kid, you're an idiot. if you keep saying it, even in jest, even in smiling, eventually it sinks in. Even if you keep smiling when you call that kid an idiot, eventually they begin to think it has power, and it eventually has weight to it. So what I ask of you is to realize the power of your words. Because for many of you, you've gone through that too. And you can think of circumstances where someone has said that to you, and you've begun to suspect that maybe what they were saying had truth to it, when they don't. They're kidding, they're joking, they're not thinking about it, but it's enough to dig at you. And so I'm very conscious of that when I teach you guys. One of the things that makes today tough for some kids is that I realize, I put quotes up there because they help keep me focused, which is what I need today. That middle one is one that is very dear to my heart. I've read it a couple years ago, and it had a lot of impact for me. The idea that we only know what we grew up with. If you grew up in a happy family, and you grew up in a family with two parents at home that tell you every night that they love you, and you have two parents that make you eat dinner, and they don't let you run off and hide behind an iPad or your phone, and every day they tell you that they have high expectations for you, and they want to make you the best person possible, that's wonderful. That makes my job easy, because it means that they're on my side. Here's where the problem comes in. That's not how the world works. And a lot of kids don't have that. Unfortunately, nowadays, most kids don't have that. I have a lot of kids who don't have a home life that's positive on any level. They have a horrible home life. And that makes my job that much more important with what I'm doing. Because they have a home where there's only one parent at home. Because one parent is gone, one parent left, or a parent's working all the time, or the parent they do have home is busy and has no time for them, and so they're busy raising brothers and sisters on their own, or the parent is always gone at a job, or the parent is drunk, or we have kids whose parents are gone on drugs. We have kids at our school who don't have homes at all. We have homeless kids at our school. I don't think kids realize that. Kids who live in hotels and who live in cars, and they come to school here still. And for those kids who have those home lives, school's not important. Why would school be important? Of everything you have going on in your life, school is the least important thing that you have going on in your life. And I understand that. But the problem is, understanding it doesn't make it go away. Because that issue is always going to be there. And it's probably not going to get better. I wish I could tell you it would. That all of a sudden, both parents will be there and they'll love you and things get better. But it doesn't. Life's hard. Life sucks. You guys read the end of Princess Bride. It's pretty straightforward. Life can suck at times. And that's a lot of how life is. So what happens is, when you're in that position, you have to parent yourself. You have to realize that your parent's not going to do the job that they're supposed to do. So you have to step up into that role. You have to be the person that tells you to turn in your homework. You have to be the person that tells you not to be that turd in class that misbehaves. You have to be that person in your life, because apparently your parents are not going to be. For many kids, I'm that person for them, which took me a while to accept as a teacher, that kids need me to be that parent that yells at them, that tells them, I don't accept this behavior, that tells them, I know you can do better, and tells them that without hating them. Because I think too many teachers tell you that, and then they say it with anger in their heart, and they say it with hatred in their heart, and that's not what kids need. Kids don't misbehave because they're horrible kids. Kids misbehave because of what's going on at home, and they need someone to show them love, which I do in my own way. And so, for a lot of those kids, my room is a place that gives them structure and guidance. For a lot of you, that's not what you have. You have a happy home. You have a home with two parents, and they eat dinner with you, and one of them cooks it, and they tell you that they're proud of you, and when you bring homework home, they put it up on the fridge, and they embarrass you, and it's wonderful. And that's absolutely wonderful and great. But here's what I need you to understand. the kids that sit next to you in class, they don't all come from that. A lot of the kids you sit next to in class, they don't come from that home. They come from a home where the parents are not a happy place. They come from a home where they don't even want to go home. I have kids who come in and cry to me because summer's coming. And it's not because I'm a wonderful teacher and they want to spend time with me. And it's not because they have all A's and they live for school. It's because home is such a horrible place, they don't want to be there. And school is their happy place. What I ask of you is to understand those kids are around you. You have to go beyond what you've experienced in this world. You have to go beyond what you've seen in your own family and realize those kids are there. What I ask of you is to not judge them. It's why I don't judge kids in my class. It's one of the things that I love my mom for. One of the things that she helped teach me is the fact that of not judging others, of accepting. And it's not easy to do. Don't get me wrong. Because those kids who come from some of those backgrounds are the ones that their hearts are filled with anger and their hearts are filled with hatred and fear, and they're the ones that lash out, and they're the ones that bully, and they're the ones that make other kids' lives miserable. And they're not doing it to be mean to you. They're doing it because they're 13 and 14 years old, and there's more pain in them than they know what to do with. So it has to come out. And I know adults tell you to be nice and to turn the other cheek, and it's easy to say those words. What I say to you is what I ask of you is to do the most challenging thing in the world. Be nice to them when they don't deserve it. Be a friend to them when they're not being a friend to you. Show them kindness when that's the last thing in the world they seem to need. Because I guarantee you, it is. Those kids who act up in my classes and tend to be turds for me at times, you'll see the fact that I don't yell at them. The fact that I don't belittle them. I tell them that their behavior disappoints me, and I let them know that, but that's completely different. And I know it's not easy for you guys to do when you have that kid in class who torments you, who makes you hate life when you're around them. It's not going to go away. I don't say that to be mean, I don't say that to depress you, but there's always going to be unhappy people in the world. There's always going to be people who hate their life. Even when you become an adult, there'll be people at jobs, there'll be your bosses that hate life. You have to learn to face it with a smile. You have to learn that you cannot let that break you down, that you have to be stronger than that. It is some of you noticed a tattoo that I have on the back of my leg when we were at Camp Tecumseh and I ran around in shorts. And it's a tattoo that means a lot to me. I'm all for getting tattoos, by the way. But in the same condition that my grandpa gave to me when I told him I wanted a tattoo, was he said, you design whatever you want, and then you wait 5 years. And if you want that same design after 5 years, then I'll fully support you. And it was some of the best advice I ever got, because I designed a lot of tattoos when I was in school. And I think now, looking back, every single one of them was awful. A big flaming dolphin on my shoulder would not look good nowadays, but at the time it seemed really cool. But it's the idea of this particular tattoo for me embodies what I just told you. And I keep it on me because it helps remind me every day to be strong. And my tattoo is a smiley face, which I know looks all goofy, but smiling and having a good attitude means a lot to me. And it's a smiley face with a snake around the outside of it. And embedded in that snake is a Latin phrase, ignis aurum probat, miseria forte viros. And I used a Latin phrase because education is important to me. But the phrase itself means that does not break you makes you stronger. And for me, that snake around the outside, the smiley face, represents the fact there's always evil around you. There's always going to be a heartache. There's always bad things in life. You can't get away from it. It's always going to be there. There's going to be family members that die. There's going to be things that fall apart. There are going to be friends that make poor choices. There's going to be bullies that hate you. They're always going to be there. They don't go away. What you choose is how you interact with them. How do you let them affect you? And for me, I chose happiness. I chose to not let those evils in the world break me down. And so that was why I got the tattoo that I did. And every day, it reminds me to stay strong. And I'm not trying to tell you to get a tattoo, because it's on video and your parents would kill me. What I'm telling you is find your way of finding happiness in the world. I'm a very happy person. Probably one of the happiest people I know overall. And I've known several happy people who are truly happy. There's a lot of unhappy people in the world, even adults unhappy. But the happiness usually comes for anyone who's truly happy. They have one thing in common, I've noticed over the years. And that one thing that I've noticed they have in common is they're comfortable with who they are. They're happy with the person they've become. It took me a long time to get to that place where I became happy with who I was, and I did not let other people's opinions of me shape who I was. And so, if you see someone who you think is truly happy, I can guarantee you it's because they're happy with who they are as a person. That they've stopped letting other people's opinions of them shape who they are. They've stopped worrying what other kids at school say about them. They've stopped worrying what coworkers say. They've stopped worrying what adults say. They've found that place where they know who they are, and they know they're happy being that person. What I want for you guys is that same thing. Find a way to be happy with who you are. That's what junior high is. No, that's what life is. Because I wish I could limit it to junior high, but there's a lot of high school kids. There's a lot of adults who are not happy with who they are. You probably have parents that you know who are not happy with who they are. Don't be that. Don't be that old person who's still unhappy with who they are. Figure it out. Find out where you want to be. Find out who the friends are. Find out what type of person you want to be. And be happy with that person. Accept that person. Don't be the person that your parents want you to be. Don't be the person that your friends want you to be. Don't be the person your teacher wants you to be. Take their advice. If you respect them, use their advice. But don't let them shape you. Don't let them force you to be a person that you're not. You choose the person that you want to be. When you do, you'll be happy. Because that's where confidence comes from. I spent a long time, years of my life, trying to figure out how to be confident. Because I was not a confident kid. I was the shy, meek kid that sat in the back of the room, and I would read books, and I would not give speeches, and I would not talk to people. But I saw people who were confident, and I always envied them. And I always thought they had things figured out. How could you be a person that was so confident and so outgoing? What secret did they have? And that was the secret. The people who are truly confident are happy. That's where confidence comes from. It comes from not caring what other people say about you, because it's not popularity. That's what I used to think it was. But popularity is the least source of confidence. Popular kids, the ones who come back and talk to me, are some of the most unconfident kids because they're constantly worried what other people say about them. It's where you stopped worrying what other people's judgment is. You stopped worrying which kids say things about you. And that's what confidence is. And that's what I want you guys to do as you go forward and you go to 8th grade, as you go to high school, is find your happiness and let that guide you and let that make you become that confident person. Two things I want to try and hit on and try to squeeze in. One, I told you that I play different roles for different kids. The fact that for some kids I'm that disciplinarian, other kids I'm the one that has to keep them on the right track. For other kids, my room is just a place of happiness where they can come in and smile. Some of you just wanted a room where you could come in and feel accepted and know that someone was going to like you and have a conversation and not make fun of you. For others of you, it was just a room that you could come and smile because you're like, finally a teacher that seems to make me laugh. And I'm absolutely happy to play that role for you. Next year when you come by, I'll be the one that is happy to high-five you and to be nice to you and say those words to you because that's who I am. But for others of you, I do serve another role. And it's not for all of you. And not for my choice, but your choice. Others of you need someone to talk to. Because that's what life is. Because you have things going on at home and you can't talk to parents. You have issues with friends and you feel that your friends are going to judge you. And you feel you have absolutely nowhere to turn. And for those kids, I offer to be an ear that will listen to you, that will not judge you. Even when you make poor choices, I won't judge you. I will listen and I will give the best advice that I can and help put you in the direction I think is best for you. And my door is always open. Even if you're a kid that never came in and talked to me, if you're the kid that leaves right when the bell, and you're the kid that never interacted with me and thought that you and I have no connection whatsoever, my door will still be open to you. And I won't turn you away. And I'll always be happy to hear what you have to say. One of the drawbacks to having 8th graders come back and talk to me, and having my high school kids come back and talk to me, is it allows me to see the future. Because I get to see you at different parts of your life. Because I see you, and I can picture an 8th grader that was just like you, and I can picture a freshman that was just like you, and I can do the same thing all the way going up to kids in college. And part of that problem is, I don't know which version of you is going to come out the other side. Because everyone has paths in front of them. You have a dark path and you have a light path. The path of poor choices and the path of good choices. And for some of you, that dark path is really wide and very enticing. And that dark path is different for each kid. For some kid, it's drinking. For others, it's smoking pot. For some, it's not doing homework and being lazy. For others, it's sneaking out at night. For others, it's going to be dropping out of high school. Every kid has their own dark path. That path that you see in front of you that you know you shouldn't go on. But it's there. And others of you have a light path, where it's the choices you know you should make, even if they're not the easy ones, but you know it's there. And what happens is I have kids who come back to talk to me, because I make that offer every year, and I have kids who come and take me up on it, and I never know which kids are going to do it. It always surprises me. I can always think I have it pegged, and I know this kid's going to come back, or this kid will never see me again, and I've yet to be right. Which is what I love about teaching, is the fact that the kids who come back are never always the ones I'm expecting. But they tell me they're poor choices. Kids talk to me a lot. I know a lot of what happens in the 8th grade before 8th graders know what happens in the 8th grade because of the kids who come back to talk to me. It means I see the poor choices that are in front of you. And for my 7th graders, your poor choices are coming soon. Really, really soon. That dark path, which for you think is easy to avoid, and you think is one that is not going to entice you, this summer and into next year, it's going to change. For most kids, 7th grade is your last year of innocence. And I say that not because you're all wonderful little flowers, innocent people, but it's going to change when you guys hit 8th grade. As of now, I could ask you if you wanted to go get drunk, if you wanted to go get pot, do you know someone? And most of my 7th graders would say no. Most of my 8th graders, in a heartbeat.
Ooh, I got a couple. I got a whole list.
And that's part of where the problem comes in. And that was not the way it was for my 8th graders last year. When they were in 7th grade, they were in the same spot. 8th grade, things change. That dark path is going to become wider. That dark path becomes that much more enticing. This is my last time to have an impact on you. This is my last time to influence you before you leave my room and go out into the world. And part of you being in my room this past year was that you've gotten me to like you. And I like every single one of you. And part of liking you is caring about you. And the drawback to caring about you and caring about my 8th graders who've dabbled in the dark path themselves is I don't want you to be hurt, and I don't want you to make those choices that ruin your life. But I don't get to make that choice. You get to make that choice. But what I see is you standing in front of those two paths And I know it's going to get tough for you. And I know it's going to be a challenge for you. And so that's why I spoke today. I hope that my words over the last couple of days resonate, and they won't with all of you. Many of you, they won't have that effect on. Some of you will. I hope that just one of you, at some point, those words help guide you and give you the strength to make the choice that you should make. But many of you are going to go down the dark path. It's part of what life is. I've had too many kids come back and talk to me to not know that that's in front of you. And when you do, and you stumble and you fall, get back up. That's why I told you my stories about my stumbling and my falling and my darkness, is I want you to understand that you can get back up. If I could do it, so could you. When you get to that point where you think it's over, it's not. You can still keep going from that point. So as you go forward, have the strength to control your life and have the strength to make the choices you know you should make. See? You got through it. Yay! Take off.
Well,